welcome to Select Arcane. In April, I went down to the OBS 2-year-old in training sale in Ocala, Florida. If you didn't already know, I'm in the business of breeding and racing thoroughbred horses here in Canada. OBS holds 3 of these 2-year-old in training sales every single year, and it's one of the hot places that I go to pick up new racehorses. Let me take you along with me on my trip to Ocala, and I'll explain a little bit how this whole racehorse thing works. After over 8 hours of flying and multiple layovers, I arrived at my horse-themed hotel and passed out. The next day I hit up the barns. I had shortlisted everything before I arrived, but still I had so much work to do. Most of the barns host multiple consigners, meaning that multiple people are inside the barn with multiple of their own horses, and you have to go to each foreman to pull out their horses. You simply fill out a card with each horse that you want to see, and then they'll pull them out one at a time for you to look at. They walk them back and forth up an aisle, and you can see them as many times as you want. But how do you buy a racehorse? How do you choose one? There's over 1,000 horses at this sale alone, not to mention all the other sales around the US. So how do you go about choosing one? Well, I have a method. Everyone has their own way of going about this, and really there's no correct answer because it's so varied. Pedigree is one way to break down your shortlist. In some cases, it's the buyer's main method. Pedigree refers to the family, mother, father, brothers, sisters, and their own personal accomplishments. It's a big green flag when a sibling or another member of the family hits it big on the racetrack. This of course drives up the price because the horse becomes more desirable. A pedigree with proven runners means that this horse probably has a better chance of being successful themselves. In a nutshell, the more bold lettering, called black type, that you see on a pedigree page, the better the horse is. Now, personally, I really don't subscribe to pedigree. You hear of those horses who come out of the woodwork with no family, no expectations, and suddenly they become the best thing since sliced bread. And yeah, it's entirely possible for a racehorse to build their own family. Another way to pick out horses is by the speed trials. These are individual timed runs over 1 furlong or so. Some horses run a little bit further depending on what their consignor asks for. There is absolutely no correlation between how fast these horses go during their trials versus their racing performance. But there is a huge correlation towards pricing at the auction. Faster the horse, bigger the price. And I'm going to mention this now because I know somebody's going to come out for blood on this. There are over 20 veterinarians who cruise around the sales grounds on staff. Each horse is looked at over 100 times by veterinarians. I'm not kidding you. Each one must be cleared to perform their trial soundly, and drug testing is performed religiously. Have you already watched my intro to model horse showing video already? If not, I think you should because it goes over this topic right here. Conformation evaluates the degree of correctness of a horse's bone structure, musculature, and its body proportions in relation to each other. When you're looking at 500 horses, probably 70% of them being bays, everything starts to blur together very quickly. It takes a keen eye and a lot of experience to quickly bypass horses that are not what you're looking for. Here's a diagram of my other video with a very drastic comparison of what a good thoroughbred would look like and what a bad thoroughbred looks like. I personally like a flat pelvis with equilateral triangle of the entire hip joint. I want the shoulder and bum to be approximately the same size, and I don't want the horse's back too long or too short. But I also have to recognize that these are 2-year-olds and they're going to grow drastically and change. So a horse who's too narrow in the front might actually end up perfect at the end, and a horse that looks perfect right now might actually get too wide. At this age, certain conformation faults can tell about a horse's health. Like I previously said, every single horse has been tested numerous times by veterinarians to make sure that they're sound and healthy. But a severely rotated pelvis can point to back pain. And trust me, when you're an athlete, it's common. So when buying your baby racehorse, you can consider how long your horse is going to need to rest before they can resume training after purchase. Watching the horse walk is probably the most important part of the buying process. A horse that moves freely with the back hoof taking the place of the front hoof as they move forward is really, really important. A seasoned horseman can easily detect minor lameness or soundness issues, and it helps to determine the horse's proper posture. Just because a horse is standing still in a snapshot doesn't mean they actually look like that, because like humans, horses can have bad posture. And then there's the personal biases. Some may not consider certain bloodlines due to previous experiences or previous history, but sometimes superstition plays a key part in this. Some people will not buy horses of certain colors, and a lot of the population will not buy horses if they can see the sclera of the eye because the horse looks nervous. Doesn't mean they are, but they look it. And speaking of nervous, I have a personal bias against horses that act up during their show. I always consider how a racehorse would act mentally on the racetrack. So if they can't handle just simply walking in front of me, how are they going to handle the crowd, the starting gate, and all the other horses bumping into them? Alright, so now that you're a seasoned horse person who's now buying racehorses with me, let's continue on my journey. During the speed trials and the days leading up before the auction takes place, the sales grounds are a ghost town. The outside ring, the back ring, and the auction house are pretty much deserted at this point, with more activity happening in the barns during the showings. But trust me, as soon as auction day comes around, this place is going to be packed. The OBS grounds are massive with well over 20 barns. A lot of people use golf carts to get around, but I was so intelligent that I wanted to walk everywhere. Oh man, in 30-degree heat, it's not fun. I looked at close to 500 horses and narrowed down my selection to a small handful. I was also working with a variety of bloodstock agents who helped me narrow down my decisions. A bloodstock agent is someone who deals with the purchasing of horses. On this trip, I'm consulting with professionals, but I'm also acting as my own bloodstock agent. Just as a quick side note, there were so many dogs here, it was great. When you feel happy with your selections, it's really important to get them vet checked. So, for the third time, all of these horses have been checked a variety of times. There's a book with every consignment that goes over all of the x-rays, throat scopings, and any findings that the veterinarians find. All you have to do is walk up to the consignor, ask for the book, and look for the number that the horse is that you're looking for. If you're happy with what you see, you can ask a veterinarian who's also on the sales grounds to come by and reread the x-rays and reports, and also re-scope the horse's throat. This is just to ensure that you're doing your due diligence before putting down a ton of money on a horse. For this specific sale, the speed trials run for 1 week with a few days off, and then it's straight into 1 full week of auction. On the first day, it's impossible to get a parking spot, let alone a seat inside the pavilion. The activity in the barns is a lot quieter, but the walking rings are packed. The way this works is that a loudspeaker over the rings announces which horses are invited to come to the pavilion to head into the auction ring. 5 to 8 horses at a time are invited, and they head straight to the outside walking ring and go around the turns, waiting their turn to go inside. As horses are sold in the auction ring inside the pavilion, the horses move along like a conveyor. They move from the outside walking ring into the inside. And everyone patiently waits their turn to walk into the auction ring. To buy horses, you can do this online, over the phone, in the back ring, or in the main room itself. I prefer the back ring or over the phone if I'm not there. Anyone can buy racehorses so long as you establish credit with OBS ahead of time, and that goes for any auction. I was in Ocala for 1 full week, but honestly, even I couldn't handle being at OBS the entire time. I did sneak off to the World Equestrian Center to see the sights, and drive all the way down for a sushi pizza that I kept seeing on Instagram. While I waited for my horses that I wanted to come up for sale, I just played tourist. And on the last day, it just poured rain. Like, it really rained. Alas, the competition was too much at this sale, and they did have deeper pockets than me, so I went home empty-handed. Also, as a side note, because this happens a lot, this is not an auction for meat buyers. The horses here are averaging about $80,000 and go up into the millions. And the thoroughbred aftercare programs are pretty darn good. After a horse has done their racing career, they either become moms in beautiful green lush pastures, or they become somebody's pets. Honestly, I see more problems coming from riding homes than I do coming out of race homes. If you found this video insightful, please like and subscribe. Racehorse auctions are open to the public, and you can walk right in and see all the beautiful horses for sale. Ask questions, educate yourself. You can find me on Instagram @SelectArcane and on Facebook by the same name. I post some of my own horse stuff on there as well. Thanks for watching. Bye!
Thank you. Hip number 104, consigned by Wild Heart Thoroughbreds agent. A chestnut filly by Collected at a Majestic Dawn by Kitten's Joy. By the Grade 1 winner of nearly $3 million Collected as the OBS 2-year-old sales glad. Graded 6 filly, taxed, recent winner of the Grade 2 Black-Eyed Susan Stakes. The filly is out of a Kitten's Joy full sister to multiple stakes filly Kitten's Cat. Third dam of Grade 1 winner Manastique. Pleased in 8, 10, 10, and 2, subject to the Florida sales tax.
Yeah, thank you. Dividend 30, dividend 30, down dividend 5, 10, 10, 10, dividend 5, dividend 7, dividend 5, 7. Hit 5, bid 7, dividend down 10, 10, you say 10, 10, 10, dividend 12, down dividend 10, dividend 12, down dividend 12, 15. Hit 12, dividend 15, down dividend 12, bid 15, down 15, 15, down dividend 15, 17. Hit 17, 15, dividend 17, down 17, 20, dividend 17, 20. Hit 20, dividend 17, hit dividend 20, dividend 17, dividend 20, down 20, down 2, down, yeah, DC, 20, hit 2. Hit 22, dividend Terry's and 20, dividend 2, dividend 2, dividend 2, dividend 20, dividend 2. Hit 22,000, 20, dividend 2, dividend 20, dividend 2, dividend 2, dividend 1, 4 go, 21, dividend 20, dividend 1, dividend outside, 20, dividend hurry, dividend 1, dividend hello, dividend 20, dividend 1, 1, 1, 20, dividend 1, dividend 1, dividend half.